Hi there. I wanted to come on today to talk to you about why you might be wanting to write a screenplay but not getting it done. And this is such a common thing that I hear from people all the time. People write to me and say either I want to write a screenplay but I don't know how to get started. I don't know how to do it. People write to me and say I've started writing a screenplay, I can't finish it. I started writing it, I got stuck. And it's very, very common. I also hear an awful lot of people saying, I just don't have time. Like, I have this great idea, I want to do it, but I don't have time. Do any of these sound like you? If so, you're in the right place. Let's talk about this. I know what this is like, right? You want to write one, you have an idea, you know it would make a great movie. You might have even started writing it, but you're just stuck. And as I said, sometimes it's basically like you don't have time. Although, let's be honest, you have time for watching videos like this and you have time for scrolling through Instagram. So you probably do actually have time. We'll talk about that later. Also, sometimes it's like, you just don't know how to proceed. You're lost in the process. You're confused. You're overwhelmed. You don't know how to take the next step. And often it's because, quite simply, if you're really honest with yourself, you're afraid, right? And I know what this is like. You're just afraid you're not good enough. You're afraid that you're wasting your time. That little voice of doubt kicks in that says, who are you to write a screenplay anyway? Forget it. You'll never do it. You can't do this. You don't know anyone in the film industry. Even if you did write it, what would you do with it? All those kinds of questions. But still, if you're like me, how I was in the early 2000s, I'd be watching the Oscars every year and seeing the person get Best Screenplay Award and thinking, oh my God, maybe one day me, right? Having that dream, like of having a movie made and people watching it that you had written and people discussing it and being interviewed about it and asking questions, answering questions about it. And also just like making a living from it. Like, that was totally my dream was, oh my God, I thought, imagine actually just getting paid to write, to make up movies. What a fantasy. I totally know all this because as I said, I was in that space for years having those dreams. And then slowly I started to make it real. I haven't won the Oscar yet, heads up. Maybe one day. It's like one of these days. But also, as I've said to people, I feel like now my dream really, less than winning an Oscar myself, is that somebody gets up and wins one and thanks me for helping them get there. That's like my big dream. Actually, multiple people. Basically, I want 10 years in a row screenplay winners to stand up and thank me. That's my dream. So maybe it's you. Maybe you're going to be that screenplay Oscar winner. Now, it's weird though that, like, on one hand, we really want to write the screenplay. We know we have a good idea for a story. We know, there's something in us that just won't let go of it. But on the other hand, we just don't sit down and do it, right? And I've experienced this to the millionth degree. I call myself like I'm like a black belt ninja of self-sabotage when it comes to screenwriting. Because, when I wrote my first screenplay, it took me 3 years, like from the time that I actually started writing it. I should add that I think I was thinking about my screenplay for 3 years before that. So I was going around thinking about maybe I should, really want to write a screenplay and I've got this idea. But then when I actually, from the day that I opened my computer for the first time and started writing it to the day that I finished it and wrote the end, it was 3 years. And the reason for that, was all these reasons that we're going to talk about, the reasons that probably you're not writing yours as well. So let's try and shed some light on that. The first thing, as I said, is that people say to me all the time, I don't have time. I just don't have time. And I get it. I'm a mom with a 2-year-old and also a 7-year-old son. So, I'm busy. I get it. Like that thing, I just don't have time. I say it to myself. And okay, let's all just take a breath. Is it really true? Is it really, really true that we don't have time? Now, we might not have acres of time. We might not have hours of time every day. But my thing with screenwriting is that you really don't need to spend more than half an hour a day in front of your laptop. You can be doing a lot of the writing at other times, like your thinking in your head is writing. I always joke, my husband will walk in and I'm just like sitting there staring off into space and I'm like, I'm working, and I know it looks like I'm just staring in space, but so much of story writing is that thinking, and there's no reason not to do it while you're doing other things. For instance, while you're doing the dishes, while you're driving to work, while you're having a shower, while you're looking after your kids, while you're feeding a baby, all those things. you can be thinking about your story and figuring stuff out, so that when you sit down at your laptop, it's like, half an hour, boom, get your pages done, right? I always say, when we say that we don't have time, I don't think it is that. I think usually it's that we don't have faith. And I know this for myself, like I'll be like, I just don't have time. And yet I find time for other things. It's all about prioritizing your time. Now, if you really believed that your screenplay had a chance of being great and of selling and of doing marvelous things, then I will say you would find the time. Like if you knew 100%, if it was guaranteed that if you write your screenplay, it would sell for $1 million, it would be nominated for an Academy Award, it would win the Academy Award, be made with amazing actors, like all the things would happen. Like all the things that you dream of would happen. All you have to do is invest 15 minutes or 30 minutes a day right now. Would you be able to find the time? And it's like, of course you would. So the problem is not the time typically. The problem is our faith, right? And if we really, really believed in ourselves and in our stories and in our capacity to get our stories out into the world on every level, then we would find the time. So saying that we don't have time, maybe not the truth, right? Another thing that we say, when we're like, okay, why am I not writing? Why am I not getting it done? I have this idea, I have this calling, but I'm not doing it. Another thing that we'll say is that we're lost, right? We're not sure what happens next. We don't know the next step, blah, 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 blah. And I just think, again, that this is just an excuse. I'm sorry. But, on some level, you're choosing to be lost. There's no reason to be lost. Okay. So that's just an excuse, and it's not going to wash with me. And I did it, I did it for years. And partly I would say, if you are like, say you're actually writing your screenplay and you're just feeling like lost, reach out for help. You can get help, okay? And you can figure it out. Now, sometimes, as I said, the reason that we'll feel stuck and that we're not writing our screenplays, we will just say, quite honestly, and I know that this was certainly true for me, that we are afraid. And, I would say, if that is you, if you're like, actually, I think the reason I'm just not getting it done, that I'm not sitting down in my seat every day and doing the pages, that I'm not getting started on it, that I'm not following through with it. If it's any of those things and you're just like, actually, I think it's because I am afraid, I would just say, well done you, because at least you're being honest, right? You're being honest with yourself. And I know for myself, like writing my first screenplay, I was terrified, I was absolutely terrified that I wasn't good enough, terrified that I would never be good enough, terrified that I was just wasting my time, terrified that, I would just write something crap and anyone that read it would tell me I was crap, like terrified that all my dreams were just stupid and ridiculous and for no reason. Like there was so much fear in me. And all I can say is it's okay to be afraid, right? We're human beings, and doing unknown things and stretching ourselves and trying out things that don't feel safe or comfortable to us are going to make us feel afraid, and that's okay. But the important thing is that we don't let the fear rule. My own personal antidote to the fear when I was working on my first screenplay was I worked pretty heavily with affirmations. I would write every day, repeatedly. I'm a talented and prolific writer. I didn't believe it at all, but I just kept writing it and writing it and writing it. And eventually I did finish my screenplay. As I say, it took me 3 years. But the incredible thing was, one, when I finished that first screenplay, I still have the journal entry from the day that I finished it. And I shared it not that long ago, I think on Facebook or something, because I found it by chance. I was like, oh my God, it was in 2005, December 2005. And literally my journal entry was like, I finished my screenplay and it might be totally shit, but I did it. And if I can do this, I can do freaking anything, right? Because this had been such a barrier for me for so long. Like just finishing a screenplay just seemed like the hardest thing in the world to do. And then I did it, and it gave me such empowerment. It gave me such a feeling of like, I can do anything. And literally within 1 year, I had sold that screenplay. Right. And this is the thing. This is what I will say to any of you. Like, it's fine to feel afraid. I was afraid every day, every moment that I wrote my first screenplay. But I finally did finish it. And as I say, within a year, I had sold it. And literally within months after that, I was hired for my first job, rewriting a script for John McTiernan, who was the director of Die Hard and Predator, movies like that. So I got like my dream job, and relocated to LA. And I mean, it changed my life. Writing that first screenplay just changed everything, So the fear is okay. The fear, like, I think the thing to do is to like acknowledge the fear and face it, and like know it's there, but just not to give into it, So if you want to write a screenplay, and this is the sort of like headline or summary, if you want to write one, if you're called to write one, if you've got a story that you just feel would be a great movie, you just have to like commit. You have to commit. And what I would say is like, I remember my yoga teacher from years ago. Like, I don't know if you know this about me. I used to teach yoga. I practiced Ashtanga, like with deep dedication for many years. And I remember my yoga teacher once saying to me, like, imagine a man who is like dying of thirst and he's trying to dig for a well and to find water. And he digs a little bit here and he digs a little bit there and he digs a little bit there, and he never finds the water and he dies, But if he had just stayed in one place and dug, he would have got it, And I think this about like this path. If you're feeling the calling to write a screenplay, don't over confuse yourself. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't go to like 10 different screenwriting gurus, 10 different courses, and scatter your approach, like writing this and that. Choose one project, choose one method, commit to it. Commit to the discipline, commit to the practice, and you can do it. There's nothing to stop you. Okay, there's nothing to stop you. I would say like the worst thing that happens when you write a first draft is you write a not very good one. And that's okay, because that's the starting point. No one's first draft is good. I wish someone had really told me that as I was writing it. Because you're like, you'll write 20 pages and then look back at it and be like, that's shit. Why am I even bothering? I can't write. And you don't realize at that point that it's not meant to be great, It's kind of like if you imagine a sculptor who has a big piece of marble and they're going to carve a beautiful, they're going to make a beautiful sculpture out of it, of a human form. Initially, they're going to be chipping away and it's just going to be this like really ugly looking human, right? It's going to be this bizarre looking human. So after a couple of weeks, it's going to look, it's going to take time to hone it to become smooth and like defined and detailed, right? And it's the same with your screenwriting. So if you're in that perfectionist mode where you're like, thinking that it's not any good or that you can't do something good, it's because you're trying to, like, you're comparing something that's just starting with things that have been like well finished and polished. Don't do it. If you feel this calling to write a screenplay, I always say that it's in your heart for a reason. Listen to the calling and commit. There's nothing to stop you. All right, you guys, I hope this is helpful. Send me your messages. Let me know what you think. I am rooting for you 100%, and I love, 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 love to hear from you. All right, have a beautiful day and write your screenplay. Don't be afraid. Okay, bye.